From the campus of Xavier University, the 2nd congressional seat is up for grabs. And on Saturday, you will decide who will succeed Cedric Richmond. But before you head to the polls, hear from the 2 finalists looking to win your vote. WDSU's Commitment 2021 2nd Congressional District Debate starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Travers Mackel. Welcome to a special WDSU presentation from the campus of Xavier University of Louisiana. Well, we started back with 15 candidates and now we're down to just 2 to fill Louisiana's 2nd congressional district seat. And we are in the final stages of what's become a very heated runoff election. So take a look at this. The congressional seat was vacated by Cedric Richmond after he took a top advisor position in the Biden administration. The district covers large portions of Orleans and Jefferson parishes, then snakes up the Mississippi River, grabbing portions of St. John, St. James, St. Charles, Ascension, Assumption, Iberville, East, and West Baton Rouge parishes. The winner will serve a 2-year term beginning this month. And tonight, here are the 2 candidates in this runoff election. They are Louisiana State Senator Troy Carter and Louisiana State Senator Karen Carter Peterson, both Democrats, both from the city of New Orleans. First off, thank you all for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We are going to begin with a brief opening statement from both candidates. We go alphabetically, so Senator Carter, you have 1 minute to make an opening statement.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. My name is Troy Carter, and I'm so very proud to be on this stage at my alma mater, Xavier University, a university that's meant so much to me and my family. My mother had the audacity to go back to school with 6 children and attend this very university to get her undergraduate degree. She then spent the next 35 or so years as a classroom teacher in both Jefferson and Orleans parishes. It was through that lesson of watching my mother overcome adversity that my true passion for service, community service, working with people, working in the community to make a difference was born. So proud that we followed my mother's footsteps. Now, as a graduate myself of Xavier University, my sister, my nieces, my nephew, and now my son, who is a junior here at Xavier University. This incredible place that's been under the incredible leadership of Dr. Norman Francis and now Dr. Verrett holds a very special place in our hearts.
All right, Senator Carter, thank you very much. Senator Carter Peterson, you have 1 minute to make an opening statement.
Thank you so much, Travers, for having me, and certainly to the university and all the faculty and the students. My name is Karen Carter Peterson, and it's been an honor to be trusted by the people to fight for them in the Louisiana legislature. Right now, in Congress, we need a bold and courageous leader that's going to serve with integrity. This election for Congress is about right versus wrong. I believe that it's wrong for someone to stand with the oil companies while people in the river parishes in Cancer Alley are dying of pollution, toxic waste from these companies. I think that it's wrong if you say you are for health care for all, not to stand proudly for Medicare for all. I think that it's wrong if you say you want safer streets, to make sure that you stand up for criminal justice reform and not support, as my opponent has in the past, stop and frisk policies. Look, in Congress, I think that we need a bold and courageous leader, and I hope to be that woman.
All right, Senator Carter Peterson, we're going to start this question with you. Obviously, the big topic gripping the state right now, the recovery from COVID-19. Vaccines are now available for all Americans, but many people just aren't getting them. In 1 minute, if elected, how would you encourage people to get vaccinated, as it's vitally important for the 2nd Congressional District?
Yeah, it is vitally important not only for our economy to recover, but it's also important for individuals to be safe. And so I would encourage more public service announcements by local and state officials, as well as the federal government. There's enough money in the CARES Act and certainly in the American Rescue Plan to be able to address that. We need to make sure that the sites are available not only in urban communities, but also rural communities. And so we need more mobile units to go into the community community to meet people where they are and make sure the vaccines are safe. Of course, people have questions about Johnson & Johnson, rightfully so. We need to make sure that the CDC appropriately disseminates that information so that people can feel comfortable getting them.
All right, same question, Senator Carter, 60 seconds. If elected, how would you encourage people to get vaccinated, as it's so important to the 2nd Congressional District?
By going into the community, as I've done my entire career, working with people, being on the ground, explaining the importance and the efficacy of taking the vaccine. My mother's 86 years old, and the very first thing I did when it was available was demonstrate my confidence in taking the vaccine by showing that my mother had taken it. I would likewise go into our nonprofits, our faith-based communities, utilize the trust and the resources they have. We know that there's a great deal of mistrust about vaccines. There's a great deal of things that people don't always understand and have justifiably some fears about them. I would go into the community myself. I would demonstrate my confidence and explain and listen to their concerns, and I'd bring healthcare officials with me to demonstrate that it's safe to take the vaccine, to demonstrate that it's important to take the vaccine. And I would listen to their fears, and I would allay them by bringing facts.
All right, Senator Carter, we start this question with you. We all know the president passed a multi-trillion-dollar COVID relief package, but raising the federal minimum wage was stripped out. In 30 seconds, if elected, what would you do to make sure that Congress and the White House get that done, raise the minimum wage?
I would
30 seconds.
I would immediately work with members on the other side to make sure that they understand the importance of this. I would fight to make sure that we have a floor of a minimum wage tied to a CPI increase, so we never have minimum wage being a political football again. I would work with members in both parties to make sure that they understand that people cannot survive on $7.25 an hour. I have filed bills and fought for minimum wage every single year as a member of the legislature. I will go to Washington and utilize my talents to do the same.
All right, Senator Carter Peterson, 30 seconds. What would you do if elected to raise the federal minimum wage?
Yes, the first thing I would do is join Congresswoman Jayapal and Congresswoman AOC, who I'm proud to have the endorsement from today, who are already fighting to make sure that $15 an hour minimum wage is increased to $15 an hour. But I think that is too low. Quite frankly, if you look at inflation, it should be higher than that. It should probably be closer to $20 an hour, because the math on the $15 gets you to about $30,000, and that's inadequate for people to keep a roof over their head and to also put food on the table.
All right, we're going to start this question with you. Another question that deals with the economy. 30 seconds for this answer. Sure. So many small businesses across this congressional district have unfortunately shut down. If elected, what is your plan to help jumpstart the economy?
Yeah, well, it's really important for our small businesses to continue to get the grants and the loans to be able to survive. But quite frankly, some of those loans need to be forgiven. And so I would be supporting SBA's for loan forgiveness. And I hope that the Biden administration would do that, because so many people and businesses are relying on our small businesses to recover. I do think that we have to be cognizant of the struggles that they've had over the last year. One of the things, there we go.
That's okay. You got a lot in 30 seconds. Senator Carter, you have 30 seconds. What would be your plan if elected to help jumpstart the economy in the 2nd Congressional District?
I would immediately reform the way PPE was done. We know many people didn't get a chance to get PPE because the big guys gobbled it up before anybody else had a chance. What I would do is I would have our PPE segregated into 3 parts. The large companies would compete with large companies, medium companies would compete with medium companies, small companies would compete with small companies, to make sure that when federal resources are available, they're not limited to people who have big lawyers and consulting firms and accountants, but people who are small operators. We know that COVID has had a significant impact, and the people are expecting us to help them get out of it.
All right, Senator Carter, we're going to start this question with you. The COVID crisis is taking center stage at the U.S. southern border. If elected, what can you do as a federal lawmaker for that border crisis? You have 60 seconds for that answer.
Listen, we have to work, whether it's the southern border or anywhere. We have to make sure that as we develop our processes to deal with COVID, with vaccines and with border patrols, that we work hand in hand with our federal officials. Everyone deserves an opportunity. Everyone deserves an opportunity to get vaccinated. And I will work with those agencies to make sure that rather it is people coming into the border, rather they're illegal or not, to make sure that we are having the best humane treatment and people being vaccinated to make sure that we're protecting all citizens throughout this country and throughout our state for sure.
All right, Senator Carter. Senator Carter Peterson, 60 seconds. If elected, what is your plan as a federal lawmaker to help assist the border crisis going on right now?
Well, I think when you say the border crisis, you're talking about immigration and the issue of asylums versus refugees. And so at the border, there's the issue of asylums. And so I support comprehensive immigration reform, but obviously the last 4 presidents have had difficulty getting anything done. I think it's really important for us to support the Biden administration, who's trying to undo what the Trump administration had, the devastation that they created in the system. And so, of course, he's listening, and I'm grateful for that. And he's also adjusting along the way to address the crisis. So I'll be supporting the Biden administration's, the way they're navigating treacherous waters to try to recover.
All right, thank you all both. Let's get to some rapid fire questions. I know both of you all are talkers. I'm a talker, but please, if you can, let's try to keep this to a simple yes or no for these questions. We'll start with you, Senator Carter Peterson. Yes or no, does the president need to end the offshore drilling moratorium?
No, it's temporary. It's a pause.
Senator Carter.
Yes, he does. The pause is in place, but it's time to move on.
All right, we'll start this one with you, Senator Carter. Yes or no, do you support a bill at the state legislature, where both of you are right now, that places more restrictions on transgender students and athletes?
No.
Senator
Absolutely
Carter.
not.
Yes or no, does Louisiana need to legalize recreational marijuana?
Definitely.
Yes.
Yes or no, would you support term limits on members of Congress, Senator Carter?
No.
No.
Yes or no, does Louisiana need to lift the mask mandate? We'll start with you, Senator Carter Peterson.
Absolutely not. Saves lives.
Senator Carter?
No, it was my resolution that advanced it in the first place, that we would have a mask.
And final yes or no question, do you support Medicare for all and the universal health care plan? Senator Carter?
Yes.
Senator Carter Peterson?
Absolutely.
Okay. We're going to get back to some more meaty questions here, more than just yes or no, so you have some time to answer these. We'll start with you, Senator Carter Peterson, and let's talk infrastructure. Both of you all have talked about the president's plan to rebuild America, and you are both on record saying that you support the removal of the Interstate 10 over the Claiborne Avenue Expressway. In 1 minute, what would be your plan to remove it, and what happens to all the traffic in 60 seconds?
Yeah, well, I think that what we have is an investment and a recognition of the racial inequities that existed when the overpass was built. With the Biden administration including it in the infrastructure plan, we have an opportunity to engage the community to make sure that the plan to take it down is one that is done in conjunction with the community and with the business community, quite frankly, because yes, it impacts not just everyday traffic, but also commerce with the port. And so we have to be very cognizant of how we do it, but it can happen in conjunction with a community, a very thoughtful community plan and engagement.
All right, same question, Senator Carter. Infrastructure is a big topic. You're on record saying you support taking down I-10 over the Claiborne Avenue portion of the city. In 60 seconds, what would your plan be and what happens to all that traffic?
First of all, I would meet with the people, as I have. I've met with the neighbors. I've met with the business people. I know that that neighborhood and that corridor was once a beautiful mecca for African-American businesses, homeowners, and it was destroyed when an overpass was built down the middle of it. I would continue to meet with them to figure out and make sure that they have a seat at the table to discuss it. Then I would employ to make sure that we had the best traffic study advisors there to make sure that we rerouted that traffic so it wouldn't become yet another nightmare on that community. Remove that overpass, give the indigenous people who were once business owners and homeowners an opportunity to come back, to have their businesses again, to enjoy the culture of that incredible area and clear that path while making sure that we have adequate traffic plans to deal with the traffic by utilizing the experts and best practices.
All right, here is a specific pointed question for each one of you all. Senator Carter, we'll start with you. Your opponent right next to you has criticized you for having Republican support and has called this a coronation, insinuating that former Congressman Cedric Richmond is trying to essentially handpick his replacement. In 60 seconds, will you be in the pocket of Republicans who are backing you and the former congressman?
I won't be in the pocket of anybody, and I'm glad you asked that question. My opponent has been desperately spewing all sorts of lies. I'm sure you've seen the text, you've seen the emails with such atrocious lies that as I go places, people chuckle and say how desperate she must be to tell these stories. Listen, I am proud to have the support of Congressman Cedric Richmond. I'm proud to have the support of Whip Clyburn. I'm proud to have the support of the House of Representatives chair of the Democratic Caucus, Hakeem Jeffries. I'm very proud of the support that I've gained up and down the river from West Jefferson to West Baton Rouge, elected officials of both parties, because they recognize that in order to get things done, they need to send someone to Washington that can build bridges, not walls, that can establish relationships that mean something, not kick rocks because you don't get your way, not spew lies because you're losing. Listen, I've demonstrated an ability to work with people. I'm proud that I've always been independent. I'm proud that I'm chairman of the Senate Democratic Caucus. I'm proud that I have the support of Independent Women Organization. I'm proud to say I have the support of Louisiana Democratic Party. That means something.
All right. Senator Carter Peterson, here's a question for you. Your opponent, right next to you, has run ads criticizing your record, accusing you of missing votes, and on education after Hurricane Katrina, when New Orleans teachers were fired, and how your husband ended up with a six-figure job. In 60 seconds, can you talk about your record, and did you turn your back on teachers, and did your husband benefit from your political position?
Absolutely not, Travers. Let me just dismiss all of it because it's blatant lies. And these are Republican PACs that are supporting my opponent, that are attacking me. That's been consistent. And when we talk about desperation, it's obvious through the Republican PACs that are supporting him. Brian Thrasher was the 2016 Trump campaign chairman. And so, I mean, those are facts. That's not lies. With respect to education, I've never, ever done anything to harm teachers. I didn't fire any teachers. I've never been in the position to do it, nor have I ever filed any legislation to do that. It's an unfortunate narrative that my opponent continues to perpetuate, but I think people are smarter than that. They know that I've always stood for children and teachers, and I'm proud of the work that my husband, Dana Peterson, has done over the years, investing in children and serving in the role of government, but also as the chairman of the New Orleans Career Center, where he's working on helping workforce development. I think it's unfortunate, and when we talk about desperation, evidence to my right.
All right, let's get 1 minute for this question. It's a hot button topic. Derek Chauvin is now convicted for killing George Floyd in Minnesota. In 60 seconds, what is your plan for police reform, and do you support defunding the police?
Yes, I do not support defunding the police. My plan for police reform is one that invests in people. It's not just a cliche to say that Black Lives Matter. It shouldn't be just a hashtag. It has to be fact. And it becomes fact when we support the George Floyd Police and Justice Act. It becomes fact when we support the Breathe Act. I'm proud to have the endorsement of Black Lives Matter. I'm proud to have the endorsement of the co-authors of the George Floyd Police and Justice Act. I think that if we reimagine the criminal justice system and public safety, then we'll be making investments in people on the front end and not having more incidents like we saw in Minnesota and elsewhere across this country. It's too many times that Black people across this country are wrongfully treated by law enforcement, and it needs to end.
All right, Senator Carter, what is your plan on police reforms, and should the police be defunded? You have 60 seconds for your answer.
The police should not be defunded. The police should be smart funded. If we're going to make sure that we have de-escalation, if we're going to make sure that we have camera vests, if we're going to make sure that we retrain our police officers, then we have to smart fund. It's disingenuous for my opponent to say that she's supportive of criminal justice reform and to challenge my credentials when in fact she hasn't authored any bills until this session, any bills to address criminal justice reform. I, on the other hand, have. I co-authored with Senator J.P. Morrell removing one of the last vestiges of Jim Crow in the unanimous juries bill. I passed legislation to address police training. My opponent talks about it, but I would urge all of you to check our records. Don't look at what we're talking about now. Go and look at our body of work. I'm proud of the body of work that I've done. I will continue to fight for criminal justice reform to make sure that bad police officers never get a gun and a badge.
All right, thank you all very much for your answers. Now to a segment where the younger generation gets to ask you two direct questions. As we mentioned, we are on the campus of Xavier University of Louisiana and HBCU. Joining us live is Student Body President Emmanuel Ucott with 3 questions from students right here on this campus. Emmanuel, take it away.
Travis, thank you. And welcome to the candidates. Welcome to the illustrious Xavier University of Louisiana. On behalf of the students, we welcome you. Our first question is from Majayla Hansen, a junior education major from Minneapolis, Minnesota. Let's take a listen.
Our country is currently at a crucible moment regarding race relations. Like so many young people, dozens of Xavierites took to the streets this summer, demanding change and holding space for marginalized communities. As a member of Congress, what are the 3 most important actions that you will take to help our communities?
Senator Carter, you have 30 seconds to answer.
Lead by example. Demonstrate that we can work together. Demonstrate that there's inequities in our community, and we will fix them by having better education, working with our young people to demonstrate that there is, in fact, racial inequities. But the way you fix that is through education, through involvement, through working with our lending institutions to make sure that the discrimination that exists within the banking industry is corrected, the discrimination that exists within education and healthcare outcomes is corrected, and you do that by effective leadership, by bringing people to the table.
Thank you. Senator Carter Peterson, you also have 30 seconds.
Thank you so much, Emmanuel, and thank you, Jayla, for the question. I think that we address systemic racism by addressing economic justice, environmental justice, criminal justice reform, making sure that we stand with women who are being paid less than a man for the same job, particularly black and brown women. And so if we deal with all of these justice issues, they impact racial justice. And I think that we need a bold and courageous leader that's going to be in Washington fighting for you, not just going along to get along.
Thank you, Senator Carter Peterson. The next question we have focuses on health care, and it's from Demetra Langford, who's a freshman pre-med major from Atlanta, Georgia. Let's take a listen.
If elected, how would you address the vaccine hesitancy in black and brown communities? And what would you do to ensure all communities have full access to the vaccine regardless of zip code?
Senator Carter Peterson, we'll start with you.
Thank you so much for the question. I do think that it's important for us to be able to disseminate good information through public service announcements. It's also important for us to go where the people are, utilizing our community centers, our faith leaders, and the community centers there, as well as the FQHCs. But it's important that our leaders lead by example, showcasing that we're willing to get the vaccine, showcasing that it's safe. And that's how we will encourage other people to do it.
Thank you. Senator Carter?
I would do as I mentioned. Go into the community, on the ground, meet with, as I've done. We've done at least 6 vaccination sites where we've gone into the community, not talking about what we're going to do, but what we've done. Going into the community, listening to the people, explaining the importance, allaying their fears, utilizing our churches, utilizing our schools, utilizing our nonprofits, leading by the example of showing that we're willing to come to you and to move away those obstacles, those fears, by showing facts, showing compassion.
Thank you. Our final question tonight is from Muna Chimso Ugo, who is a sophomore. He's a sophomore pre-med major from Lagos, Nigeria. Let's take a listen.
Even before the pandemic, families were being pushed to the edge of their financial capacity to be able to pay for college. Some parents had to take out mortgages, but in our community, not everyone has the same opportunity or access to these resources. And so my question is, as a member of Congress, how would you address the issue of college affordability?
Senator Carter Peterson, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I think that the student loan debt is holding back generations from success. As a person who went to school and graduate school, got a law degree, I just recently paid off my law school loans. And so it's really important for us to support President Biden in his efforts to eliminate student debt. I support $50,000 being eliminated. I think that in the greatest and wealthiest country in the world, we should be able to do that to help our students thrive, not just survive.
Thank you. Senator Carter?
I will immediately go to Washington and not offer slogans and antidotes that sound good, but hit the ground running and meet with my colleagues in the Congress to talk about the reality of what it means to move this away from just the rhetoric of talking about it, advancing the issues of truly passing legislation to give debt forgiveness for our young people. Give them an opportunity, instead of paying debt back to the federal government, let them buy a house, start a business, re-energize our economy by providing assistance to our young people and older people who've gone back to school to get an education.
All right, Emmanuel, thank you for all of those great questions, and thank you for those Xavier students for such great questions and great topics. We're going to end tonight with closing statements. Senator Carter, we started with you, so we're going to start with you. Senator Carter Peterson, you have 60 seconds to make a closing statement to let voters know why you feel you're the best candidate.
Thank you so much, Travers, and thank you, Xavier University, for hosting us here. I'm a proud graduate of an HBCU, Howard University, and I just want to say that this election is really important. On Saturday, you have the chance to decide the future of the 2nd Congressional District, and I hope that you choose that you want the first African-American Congresswoman to serve in Washington in a bold and progressive way that will also change lives in this district. It's really important. If you care about someone fearlessly fighting for racial justice, economic justice, environmental justice, and fighting for reproductive freedom, and making sure that we don't have these issues with George Floyd and we don't continue to have these incidents, but we tackle criminal justice reform head on, then I would ask that you consider voting for Karen Carter Peterson, because I promise you that I will never, ever lie to you. I will serve with integrity. I will shake things up to get things done, and I will never forget where I came from. And I ask you for your vote, number 5 on the ballot.
All right, Senator Carter Peterson, thank you. Senator Carter, you have 60 seconds to make a closing statement to let people know why you feel you're the best candidate.
I'm Troy Carter, number 4 on the ballot. It's amazing that my opponent stood here and told yet again more lies that she's been admonished for. The Times-Picayune Advocate, the Gambit, Tribune, various fact checkers have all called out. It's been in the paper, it's been on television, it's been noted that she consistently tells these untruths, and unfortunately she continues to tell them even though she has been caught red-handed in them. I'm Troy Carter, and I promise I'll always tell you the truth. I will fight for criminal justice reform. I will fight to make sure that everyone has access to health care. I will fight to make sure that women are not marginalized. I will fight to make sure that people don't have to literally die for their jobs. I'm Troy Carter, and I humbly ask for your support. I hope that you will choose honesty and integrity over deception and lies.
All right, Senators, thank you for participating. Good luck on election night. That's all the time that we have. And don't forget, please go out and vote this Saturday, April 24th. And you can always count on WDSU to bring you the very latest up-to-date coverage on air and online on election night. Plus, we have much more Commitment 2021 coverage right now on WDSU.com. Thanks for watching this special WDSU Commitment 2021 special presentation, the debate for the 2nd Congressional District seat. I'm Travers Mackel. That's all the time that we have. Once again, thank you for watching.